Hi there, it's Jensen here, and today I'm going to share my experience with you on how to play Baccarat. And just a bit on my background, I've been in a cruise ship as a dealer for about 2 years now, and now I'm going to share my experience with you. First thing you need to know in Baccarat is that A to 9 it actually represents the face value, and for 10, J, Q and K it represents 0. And usually the suit you see here, there's actually 4 suits, but don't mind about the suit because the suit is actually represent just the shape, is nothing to do with the game. And the only thing you need to pay attention is the number 1 to 9 represent the face value, and 10, J, Q and K represent 0. So for example, if you take 9 and J, the total value is actually 9. And if you take 10 and 9, the total value is actually equals to 9 as well, because 10 JQK is actually equivalent to 0. So for example, if you take 9 and 8 is 17, but it's actually the total value is 7 only, because 10 is actually represents 0 as well, so it's 7 only. So it goes the same to 8 and 7 is actually 15, and is minus by 10 is actually the total value is 5. And it goes the same with 7 and 6, or 5 and 6. And now you may ask, what are the values are for, and how does it work, what's the meaning behind the value? And actually first you must need to know that in Baccarat, the two cards combination value from 1 is the lowest, and to 9 points is the highest in Baccarat. So for example, if you get the two card combination of 5 and 4 is 9, so 9 is the highest point. And if you compare with 7 and 6 is actually 13, the value is actually 3, so 9 wins by over 3. And if you get 8 and 3, and 8 actually wins by over 3. So this is basically the layout for the Baccarat game. It consists of a banker and also the player side, as you can see here. Don't mind about my writing, it's very terrible. And basically you have these two sides, banker and player, and this is actually your working area, and this is actually where the players put their money on the bet. And it consists of here's a player side, and also here's a banker side. Okay, it's basically it's just a name, don't get confused over the player and banker. It's actually like X and Z, X and Y, A and B. So whether if they want to bet on the banker side or the player side. Okay, and it also have as you can see here, P pair, B pair is actually banker pair, player pair, and tie. And don't be confused over this and this, is actually the same, it's just on a different box. So for example, if the player A bets here, and this is the betting area for player A, this is betting area for player B and player C. So it's actually basically you just pay attention on one box. So from here you are about to experience how would the live game looks like. So the cards is here, so basically 4 cards will be drawn, 2 cards on each side alternatively. Okay, so for example, player has 9 points and banker has 8 points. So in this situation is that both is actually considered natural. So if you have natural 8 on any sides of the banker or player is actually the result already lor. So it's actually banker, natural 8 or natural 9, see which is the highest point. So for this situation, 9 is the highest point, so player wins over the banker, natural 8 lor. And in this situation, banker has 8 points and player has 3 points. So in this situation, banker wins 8 over 3. And if you have player 9 and banker 2, so player will win 9 over 2. And another situation you can encounter is banker has 7 and player has 6. So in this situation, whichever side, if the banker is 7, player is 6, 7 and 6, and is actually the game is actually been into a result, so is 7 win over 6. It doesn't matter if you put it this way as well, as long as it's 7 and 6, the game result is 7 win over 6. And another situation you can encounter is actually where the banker and player, it has a total point of 0 and 0. So what you should do next is you need to draw the third card for player and for the banker. So for example, the third card for player will be total points is 2 and the total points is 4. So basically the result is 4 over 2 because this is 0, this is 0. So 4 and 2, 4 is bigger, so the banker side wins. The banker side, no matter if it's a 0 value or it's a 1 or has a total value of 2, 0, 1 and 2, the third card must be drawn on the player side in this situation. So for example, player will get 2 and you need to draw the third card for the banker as well. So banker is, the total point is 6, so banker wins 6 over 2. And the fourth situation you can encounter is actually if banker has 7 and player has 4. Okay, and banker 7, just remember that if banker has a 7, it will stand, so there will not be any card drawn for the banker side. The third card will not be drawn on the banker side at all because it's 7 is already stand. And what you need to do is the third card for the player side only. So for example, third card for player is 4, so total value is 8. So this is the game result, is player wins 8 over 7. Same goes to the player side, but the player side, the standing point for player is 6. The banker side that we mentioned just now is if you have 7, then it will stand and there will be no cards to be drawn on the banker side. And what if you have, for example, this situation, so whereby the player side is 6 and the banker side is 5. So for player side, 6 is the standing point, so there will not be any cards drawn on the banker side, on the player side, sorry, and there will be only a card drawn on the banker side because player side is 6 stand. So third card for the banker is remains 5, so player wins 6 over 5. And now what to do if banker has 3 and player has 2, and this is actually more complicated. You need to see whether there will be a third card drawn for the banker side referring to the third card denomination on the player side. You can actually refer the tableau, the law of Baccarat, on the table as you can see. Then after you memorize the tableau, and this is what you will get. So this is just a demo for you according to the tableau. Okay, so let's start. So banker has 7, player has 2. So there will be no any third cards drawn for the banker side. So we'll just draw for the player. So player is 4, banker wins 7/4. So in this situation, player 7, so 6 and 7 is considered stand. So just the third card drawn for the banker 7. So 7 and 7 is a same, so we consider it a tie, and later on we'll just move forward to that. And now just to show you the tableau. So this is natural 9, so natural 9 wins over 5, so there will be no third card drawn on any side. So here's the situation, banker 3. So if the third card is 8, so there will be no cards drawn on the banker side. So in this case it's 5, so you need to draw the third card for the banker. So it's player win 5/3. So here you need to only draw the third card for the player, for the banker, because player is 6 stand, so the third card for banker is total value of 9, so banker wins 9/6. So 1 and 1, so you need to draw third card for each. So 1 and 1 is a tie. And in this case, banker has 5, player has Baccarat. So you need to refer to the table whether there will be a third card drawn for the banker side according to the player denomination. So whatever you need to draw the third card for the banker, for the player, and the player third card is Baccarat 0. So basically 10 JQK is the same, so Q is actually equals to 10, so there will be no third card drawn for the banker side if the banker has 5, and same goes to if banker has a denomination of 4, 5 or 6, and you need to refer to the player third card denomination to determine whether the third card for the banker need to draw or not. So as I mentioned just now, the tie is actually, for example, the total result points has a denomination of 0 and 0, so there will be a tie. So for example, if there is a tie on 0, so if the player places the bets here, they will win the tie bets, which is equivalent to 8 pay 1. So for example, if you bet 10 ringgit here and you will get back 80 ringgit, is basically times 8. And if there is a pair, for example, if the banker has a pair of Q, so we will pay the banker pair 11 pay 1. So for example, if you bet 25 ringgit, you will get back 275 if you get the pair. Same goes to this situation where if the player has a pair of Q, so you will get paid for betting on the player pair.